And to discuss what's happening in Taiwan and in the region, I'm being joined by Kelvin Chen, who's a journalist at Taiwan News and is joining us from Taipei. Thank you so much, Kelvin, for joining us here. Now, with Taiwan getting a new president, what are the expectations of the people from the people? This comes at a time when we know that it's a divided parliament and DPP no longer has a majority. So the honeymoon period is over even before it begins. In such a scenario, how do you see the decisions really be taken and how will it play out, not just for Taiwan, but also for the people?
Yeah, well, he's got to hit the ground running now. As you can see, he's facing two major challenges. One is confronting China and handling Chinese aggression around Taiwan. And the second is dealing with the opposition party, the Kuomintang, who is recently they're trying to push some controversial bills and they're trying to kind of limit the president's power. They want to kind of force the president to deliver a speech to them every year and also to produce certain documents at their request. So currently, those two issues are what the president is facing right now. And as for the people, I feel the people are cautiously optimistic. Lai has pledged to strengthen Taiwan's democracy as well as strengthen Taiwan's national security. So the people, uh, they understand the challenges, but they have confidence overall in what Lai can do for Taiwan.
Right, so are you really seeing a shift? Because we see the numbers have changed. So are you seeing a shift in some parts of Taiwan, particularly those parts that are close to mainland China, which is growing closer to Kuomintang rather than DPP?
I would not say there's any huge changes in the voting trends, but I'd say overall, the younger generation of Taiwanese are more often than not voting or supporting the DPP, the People's Progressive Party.
Now, we do know that President Lai has said that China should stop threatening the country. And in such a period where we see that there was a very nationalist, a hardline president and leadership in Taiwan, President Lai actually has tried to balance things out. He's trying to wear those large boots, but also is trying to be a little sensible and choose a middle ground. How do you see that really pan out for Taiwan then?
I do. I think he could potentially do a good job. I mean, from what I see, he's going to be sort of a Tsai Ing-wen version 2.0. He's already pledged to sort of continue what Tsai has already been doing. In terms of defense, he's already promised to continue building up Taiwan's domestic weapons production, such as missiles and drones. And in terms of like Chinese gray zone tactics, he's gonna certainly have a challenge dealing with that, but he's going to be firm and assertive whenever he needs to be.
Right. Apart from just being assertive, he's also proposed dialogue to resolve the one nation, one China policy of Beijing. But we see that there is a very extreme hardline faction in the Xi Jinping government also, and led by the president himself. So do you really see a forward movement when it comes to a rapprochement between China and Taiwan?
At least for maybe in the next 10 years, I feel like it's just a deadlock in dialogue. China won't budge in its position. They're completely entrenched in their one principle, and their precondition is that Taiwan must accept itself as a part of China, whereas Lai Ching-te or Taiwan, uh, he will only initiate or engage in dialogue without any preconditions. So the two sides are engaged in a deadlock.
Well, he's also proposed the idea, President Lai, of maybe reopening exchanges between Taiwan and mainland China. Now, do you see that certainly as maybe a step that the president is taking towards China?
Uh, yeah, it's definitely a very attainable objective to increase certain exchanges, maybe cultural or educational. But in terms of political uh, dialogue, then I do think it's going to be extremely hard to increase those type of political dialogue tensions.
Well, the other aspect is during elections and even before that, we've seen massive airspace violations by China. Do you, in your appreciation, then think that will continue to increase? And should there be more engagement between this new administration and America? And furthermore, visits of senators and congressmen from the US to Taiwan. Are we to expect things heating up in the Taiwan Straits?
Well, first of all, when you say airspace, it's not really airspace, it's air defense identification zone, which is claimed by Taiwan, but it's not the actual airspace over Taiwan. um, that's my next point is that I do think uh, Chinese provocations or incursions into the ADIZ for short, they will increase. And it's all part of China's gray zone tactics in order to wear down Taiwan's defense resources and manpower. And as for continued visits by foreign officials or delegations, they will continue. I don't think that these Chinese incursions into the ADIZ will really affect uh, foreign officials from visiting Taiwan.
Interesting, but also the fact that Taiwan requires, Kelvin, a lot of support from the United States of America. But with all the conflicts that we are seeing in the region, whether it is the Israel-Hamas war or for that matter the Russia-Ukraine war, where a lot of money and weapons have been pledged, how do you then see America stand by Taiwan should there be a reason or a need when China sees a vacuum and would want to enter the Taiwanese territory?
I would not say that there's any sort of vacuum in terms of U.S. support for Taiwan. Um, of course, the U.S. is has a lot of focus on uh, the Middle East and Ukraine, but the U.S. ties and relationship with Taiwan are extremely solid, and one should never doubt their support for Taiwan and Taiwan's defense needs.
And before I let you go, Kelvin, about the economy, Taiwan is very important when it comes to semiconductor chip industry. But in this volatile environment, how do you see the current and the new administration ensure that Taiwan's economy continues to grow? And secondly, what is the contribution that you see of India, given that now we have a mobility agreement between India and Taiwan? There are skilled workers or workforce that are going from India to Taiwan, whether it's the tech industry or not, but certainly skilled labor moving from India to Taiwan. So what's the contribution over here to Taiwanese economy?
Actually, under Tsai Ing-wen, the former president, she initiated many economic or trade negotiations, such as with the U.S. and Canada, and so those things will continue under Lai, and the results and benefits from those uh, initi- those initiatives and economic deals will come into fruition under Lai. In terms of India's contributions to Taiwan's economy, I feel like the potential is extremely large. Of course, India and Taiwan recently signed a labor deal, and that will definitely have a huge benefit for Taiwan's labor force. But in other areas, such as maybe space and also semiconductor cooperation, I think there's certainly a lot of areas where Taiwan and India could cooperate in.
Kelvin Chen, thank you so much for joining us here and giving us a detailed analysis on what's happening in Taiwan and what this new administration really means for Taiwan, the region, and for Taiwan-India ties.